Hi, everyone, and welcome to the School of C's demo class. We are coming to you live from New York City in the Starta Accelerator offices, which you'll get to see a little bit later. So thank you so much for joining us. I know there's people from all over the world here, and I hope that you can get some value out of today and learn a little bit, but also learn about a very different type of school that we're launching. So let me bring you into our class. One moment. Always a technical difficulty. Okay, so who are we? We are, as I said, the School of C. We are a venture infrastructure, and we are part of Starta Accelerator as well as the Venture Capital Fund. So when you join us, you're already joining a very deep ecosystem of founders and mentors, and you will be collaborating with other founders who have made it in the US. So you're here to learn about how to become a founder and how to be successful, the things that you will really need, the skills that you really need to take away. You're going to learn to strategize. So you're not only going to be learning skills, but you're going to be implementing them. You're going to take on different roles. So for instance, you're going to act like the CEO, and you're going to make decisions like the CEO. You're going to work with mentors so that you can report in as the role of the CEO, as the role of the CTO. And this is going to teach you some flexibility so that you can learn to think on a global team. Now, this is really important for founders, this type of skill, because unlike the corporate world, when you're working on an international startup team, you are going to have to take on different roles. There's no one role. You might be the CEO, but you might have to wear many hats that day, and you will be engaging in those real world activities. So, one moment. Of course, again, I have. All right, so what's the timeline here? In a 6-month program, you are going to learn the skills that you need. You're going to be part of matching and workshops so you could work on a team. And we're going to really match you with teams that work best for you. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to be working on teams that are exactly like you. What we want you to do is learn to strategize on a team that is different. We want you to look at, how are you going to work with someone who is, very process oriented, very much a decision maker, very fast, someone who might be very detailed. We need all these people on a team. And when you can learn to be flexible, to learn to work with and embrace and also recognize everybody's strengths, that's going to make you a more powerful leader. And how are you going to communicate with these people? How are you going to lead your teams? How are you going to participate and get things done? You're going to have homework and group discussions to do this. So that's what the real world piece is. You're going to be sitting in directors meetings. You're going to be pitching and presenting, and people are going to give you feedback on this. So you are going to go through real world simulations, and what you're getting is the education of not only your MBA and your experience, but we're doing it all in one condensed program. So you're going to walk away with skills that will plug you in and get you ready to become a founder when you're done. Now, after the first 4 months of online program, you're also going to come to New York City, and you'll get to see our offices in a little while, but you're going to come here. And as the world opens up again, which it is starting to do, we're going to see more and more meetings and collaborations that are going to be taking place live. So you'll have the opportunity to do that. Now, we do work with the accelerator, and we find that this part of the program is invaluable. There's a lot you can do online, but there's some things you just have to be here for. And it helps you concentrate, it helps you learn. When you sit down and meet with someone, it's just a different way of communicating. So we're gonna make sure you have all of that when you're part of our school. Forgive any technical difficulties. Every now and then my mouse jumps around, I'm not sure why, but forgive me. Okay, so the goals of this workshop. Right now, one of the things everybody's talking about is soft skills and communication. Now, I know what some of you are saying, we're business leaders. I have already worked in the business sector. I know how to communicate, but it does change. It changes from country to country. It changes from sector to sector. So maybe what you're used to doing might change a little bit when you come here, when you're leading a team in the US versus when you're leading a team in your home country. So what we're going to start to talk about today is how you're connecting your voice and your culture. So how you're using your voice, does it change? And my role here is I am the communication coach and I am the program director of the School of C. Now, what does that mean? I'm going to be helping you to plug into the correct mentors. I'm going to be making sure that you're matched with the right people so that you can, have the right skills. My name is Lisa Patti, and I've been working with Startup Ventures now for a few years. And I've actually worked with the accelerator since batch 2, and now we're in batch 10. So I have a lot of experience with international startups. They all have all different sorts of needs. Sometimes you have someone who's very numbers oriented, and how are you going to really deliver complex information? Maybe you have someone who's in media, who knows how to present, but might need a little polish, or they might need to learn how to take a big stage. How are you representing data so that there's story attached to it? When do you need what? And again, it shifts from culture to culture. So my work with a lot of the founders here, and through my work, we've developed all of these programs. We've seen what people needed. And I think that's the important part is, we do this every single day. And again, communication is a key piece in fundraising, in selling, in connecting with new clients. So you're going to have to learn to do this, and you're going to have to learn to adapt your style to many different new audiences. So it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. But we're going to start to think about both. It might change a little bit, like I said, from what you're used to conveying. And then we're going to meet our program manager, Bobby Allen, who is also going to be talking a little bit about body language. Bobby's going to introduce himself in a little while. There he is. He's on screen. And you're going to get to hear from him. Bobby has an amazing background. He has an acting background. So he's going to bring you all that presence, that body language and presence. My background is that I have a master's in speech pathology. I studied linguistics, and I also studied intercultural communication. And I look at how culture impacts communication and how voice impacts communication. So you really can't take the voice out of the message. You really can't take your beliefs and what you believe a great message is out of you. So there's no right and wrong way to communicate. I just want to let you know that. This is not about you changing and you becoming someone else. It's about how you build flexibility. It's how you become a more powerful leader. So let's hope this mouse works. All right, so what I am going to show you is a past founder of ours. And these are all different videos that you can find, but we're going to show you a past founder and how he started, and then how he was able to do his demo day pitch just after he was coached. So we have a 3-month coaching program in the accelerator. And like I said, we've modeled a lot of our needs. We've taken the best practice. We've taken what the founders needed and really put it into the coaching program. When I design each coaching program, it really is about your group and the needs of your group. And you're going to see a little bit later some live coaching, so you'll get an idea of what you'll get when you come here. And it really does change the game. So I'm going to play one video. Let's hope this works well. And you'll see a big difference in this person. Background on this person, he is the CTO. He is not someone who's used to presenting and pitching. He is the engineer. He's that brain behind the operation, but his favorite thing was not getting up in front of a crowd. So you're going to see a real difference in how he was able to use energy, use his voice to present to investors and his clients.
I'm Eugene. I'm CEO and founder at Partners. It's a platform to extract unstructured data from websites and visualize without developing.
Did you know that the amount of data is growing by more than 30% per year? And about 80% of the data is unstructured. Collect and structure a large amount of data is too expensive, long, and not scalable. Do you know about Honey? They have collected products from Amazon, Walmart, Best Buy, and other websites. 2 weeks ago, PayPal paid $4 billion for Honey. Here's what we do.
All right, so you saw a big difference there. And again, everybody's goals are different. So when I meet you, when we sit down, when any coach meets you, these goals are going to be designed for you. We're going to be thinking about who you are, what your personality is like. There is no one size fits all for coaching. I usually sit down and I have to assess what the needs are of the person and then how they need to pitch. So again, you're not coming here to be in a cookie cutter program. This program is highly developed around you, the skills you have, and how to make them better. So we're here to up level what you already have and create flexibility so that you can work in a new market, in a new culture, sometimes in a new language, which seems like it's super easy, but sometimes it can be a challenge. Even when I have founders that come here, or business people, because I do coach business people in corporate, you know, they come here and they're really experienced. But when they actually come here to New York and they're standing in front of a crowd that is, let's say, an English-speaking crowd, or a crowd that might be asking a lot of questions during Q&A, you know, the game changes a little bit. And you might feel like, okay, I need a little more, I need to be able to give a little more energy. I need to understand how I'm presenting. How we perceive ourselves when we communicate can be different from what we're actually how we're actually perceived by the audience. And we're going to talk about that. You know, how does it change? What do we think of ourselves when we're standing up there? You know, what do we think the audience sees? And what happens in between? You know, are you able to think on your feet? Are you able to give the audience the message that you want to give? Is it landing? And we're going to talk a lot about that today. Whoops. And as I said, bear with me on technical difficulties. Live streaming is always so much fun. All right, so now I'm going to introduce you to Bobby Allen, and he has a lot to say. Bobby.
Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Bobby Allen. I'm also the program manager here for the School of C. I'm a professional actor, professional musician, and producer here in New York City. And I know a lot about the industry in New York City from the artistic side, but I've just been now getting into helping out and coaching here for the accelerator program on basically a little fun. One of the workshops I do is a fun improv class that helps you break out of your shell, because so much about presenting is about being open and being fun and being like impulsive. And so I try to sort of help that get out of the participants. And we're going to be like infusing a lot of that into the program for School of C as well. So here we have, so we connect you to the world. So when you leave the School of C, you are ready to take on the real world challenges with the leverage of our ecosystem and infrastructure, right? And wait, hold on a second. And when we give you the tools and community that provide the blueprint for success as an entrepreneur and founder, you are building your resume not through theory, but in the real world with hands-on experience and proven traction on US market. Yes, so there you go. So we are, that's the goal here, is to connect you guys to the world so you can pitch not only in your ecosystems, but also in the American ecosystem as well.
All right, thanks, Bobby.
Okay.
And Bobby and I work together pretty closely. We've done quite a few projects together. We've created video content together. So we understand how to work with each other and how to work with the founders. So we've run these programs, again, through the accelerator. So we know they work. And when we work with you, you know, these are going to be up-leveled. These are going to be designed for you. And not only Bobby and I, but all the other mentors that we're bringing on, whether it's sales or whether it's mindset or how you have to deliver, you're going to be connected to, you know, how you developed your business plan. How do you really create business in the US? And you're going to be learning all that through this school. You know, so this is a really accelerated program. You're getting plugged in to accelerate your skills in a 6-month time period. And it's going to be intense. You know, there is time commitments. There is commitments from you that are you're going to have to meet. It's going to be about 10 hours a week, at least, on your part. You know, you're going to be working. You're going to be putting your time in. Now, we know that you're busy entrepreneurs, and that's what we've designed this for. We designed this for the working entrepreneur, the working business person who has, you know, possibly a job or a company of their own, but we are working with you to design this so that it's doable with what you're doing now. And we take all that into account. This is designed for the professional. This is designed for someone who has some skill, who has the experience, and now wants to plug it in to the startup ecosystem. So why does communication matter? In this sense, you know, when you're speaking to an audience, you know, why does any of this matter that we're talking about today? The first thing I want you to think about is the tone of your delivery. So sometimes it's very easy from culture to culture to misunderstand each other. And this is where voice and your choice of words comes into play. the tone is going to give you the feel of the message. It's how you're connecting to people. Sometimes we're a little too direct. We land very fast, okay, I'll do that. And depending on who you're speaking to, it could be taken, fine, or someone might take it personal. And sometimes you have these little miscommunications and you're not sure why. You could be someone who gives a lot of information up front. You're a storyteller, you're a talker. You could be someone who says, no, boom, 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 this is exactly what I want. You're someone who might give a lot of data or numbers, or maybe you mix it up. But you want to start to know, am I being overly direct? My choice of words, what are they? As this is landing, is there a misunderstanding? I was working with a team the other day, and it was a Russian team or Russian group interviewing a Brazilian for sales. And there was a big misunderstanding there. The Brazilian, who's very used to a lot of warm dialogue, a lot of movement, a lot of connection during the interview, felt like when she was being interviewed that it was too sharp, it was too quick. She felt like it was a little rude. And honestly, the Russian team was actually very surprised because they thought they were giving it their best shot at making this person feel welcome. But because of the delivery, because of the tone, there was a mismatch between them. There was a miscommunication. Now, not only are you going to be working in the US, but you are going to be working probably globally at some point. The world is small now. We're on this medium constantly. And I'm sure many of you are used to this, but we want to make sure how we adjust. How are we reading not only, the audience, but how are we adjusting it in ourselves? Bobby is going to go into some body language and what it actually means. Do we sit here with no facial expression, no body language the whole time, with our voice low, with our volume kind of low, and with our energy kind of low? I could do this, I could be very serious, but that's not going to communicate what you're going to need to do, especially here. So here, what we've seen a lot when we have investors giving feedback is, we'll have someone pitch. And, here in New York, what we do is we hold pitch contests both on and offline. And when the investors give feedback here, the typical, let's say, investor that's used to working here is going to say, I'm going to need you, I need you to give some energy or enthusiasm behind this. I want to know that you believe in it. I want to trust that you can sell this. And so these are things that they're going to actually expect from you to be able to convey. And what I tell people is, how are you marrying your voice to the words that you're choosing? So all of these things are things that we're going to break apart, not in today's, but if you come here, you're going to learn a lot of this, but we're going to break it apart. And today you're going to walk away with some actionable tips that you can use when you start to craft your pitch or even communicate. So when I have founders come here, some very experienced founders and business people actually will say, does it really matter? I mean, come on, I have a great product and I could sell it. So I'm doing fine in my home country. I'm used to doing this. I present to large crowds all the time. But then what happens is, they start to get a little negative feedback, or maybe they're not selling it as fast as they want. Maybe, again, we go back to the interactions. Maybe there's some interactions that they just don't understand, what went wrong there. And there are tools that I'm going to use in order to help you. So I was recently certified in something called the Global DISC. Now, the DISC is an assessment tool that actually assesses your behavioral style, your communication style. And some of you might have heard of this. This particular version actually connects different personality styles with actually different cultures. Now, interestingly, for my personality style, and this is not a big surprise, I came out more of a very expressive person, more typical of, let's say, Italy, Spain, Latin America, than actually New York City. I grew up in New York City. I've learned to adapt here and we learn to flex our styles, but my comfort zone is storytelling and a lot of expression, maybe talking a little too much when I'm nervous, so understanding what happens to you not only when you're at your best, but when you're under stress. What does it do to you? And those are the types of things we're going to start thinking about, when we really sit down and dig into your own communication style and why it matters, how you're connecting, how you're creating that trust between you and someone who's investing in you. So one of the things I want you to think about, and it might seem really simple, but is your vocal presence. And what does that mean? Your vocal presence is how you use this tool, your voice, to convey the meaning. There's going to be the words that you choose. That's very important. There's your body language. They say that your vocal presence, your voice, and your body language are actually much more memorable than the content. There have been studies. Albert Mehrabian did a study many, many years ago, and there's a pie chart on it. I believe it's about 58% of what people remember, not what's important, but what people remember is the body language, the visuals, the smile, you know, where you place a smile. And smiling is one of those things that actually does not translate culture to culture. Some people think that Americans are way too smiley, and it might be a little fake. You know, when you come here, you're going to see a lot of differences in culture. And that's something that, again, no right or wrong here, but you're going to see some real differences. People might say to you, you know what, put a smile in there, you know, put some energy in there. And how are you doing that without feeling fake? You know, how are we practicing that within your comfort zone, but not so far out of your comfort zone where you're choosing words that are way over the top, that you're choosing a style that's so big that doesn't feel, you know, comfortable for you. One of the things is that when you're speaking, when you're conveying this presence, you want to make sure you're clear. Now, everybody's coming from different language backgrounds, and we all have to use language in a different way. So let's say you're a Russian speaker. When you're a Russian speaker, you actually don't have to open your mouth so much when you're speaking. When you translate that over to English, sometimes the mouth stays closed. When the mouth stays closed, English tends to be, especially American English. British English is a little different. It's a little farther forward, and you can keep your mouth a little more closed for some of the British English dialects. For American English, it's going to be big. It's going to be round. You're going to, you know, and I mean, people laugh at this because it's like, wow, you know, very, you know, I want or oh or eat, you know, you're going to see these big round movements. You're going to see a lot more mouth movement and cheek movement, but it actually impacts the communication style. When you shape the words, when the words are clear, that's actually going to help you convey the message. If you're speaking too fast, that's going to be something that people notice. You know, when you're speaking fast, it could convey some confidence. You know, I could get it out, I could move, I could be fluid. But if you're speaking so fast, and let's say your mouth is closed, what happens? People don't understand you because you're speaking really fast and then your mouth is closed and you're just going to talk like this and you're going to cut off words. So also, if you use a very soft volume, especially on this, you know, when you do these types of things, when you mumble, and which means you're not being clear, when you're speaking too fast, maybe when you're very flat, and this is one we work on a lot, you know, where are you putting the pitch? You know, where are you fluctuating? Intonation patterns. Intonation patterns should not be different. Most of us are not monotone, but no one's actually 100% monotone, but we do have to have a lot of variations in pattern, in voice. Why? Well, the brain likes change. If your brain can predict a pattern, you know, I'd really like to go blah, 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 blah. You know, it's cloudy out today. It's a very nice day in New York. I'd love for you to join us. Now, that's fine, but it doesn't communicate a lot of enthusiasm or change. If I kept going like that throughout this presentation, your brain would say, I could predict what Lisa's saying. I'm going to just shut off. I'm going to check my phone because my phone is right here. And right now, we have multiple screens around us. We have to captivate people's attention, especially in this medium. And it looks like we're going to be using it more and more and more. So how do you capture someone when you're on screen or off screen? Is remembering, be clear, keep your pace at a nice even pace. Use some pausing. Use some pausing for emphasis. You know, when you use a longer pause, it's going to create more emphasis. When you use a shorter pause, it actually just helps you to remember, and it makes it easier to vary your pitch. Emphasize very key words. You know, I'd really like to do this. We're the first. We're the first to do this. We're the only ones. Make it stand out. Look at, let's say you're developing a pitch right now. Look at all the keywords. Bold out things that you want to stand out and see if you could say them at a slightly higher pitch, at a slightly louder volume. So this is what we were talking about. You want to emphasize these ideas, these keywords, so that people can walk away knowing what there's a few key things you want them to walk away with. People don't have great memories, and on screen we have less of a memory. So what are the key things? What do you want to bite size? What do you want to feed them? We want to know that we're the first. This is our traction. You know, we've raised $50,000 last year, $1 million in fundraising. What do we want to walk away with? We have partnerships. We've created 20 new partnerships. And you want people to walk away with the information, the key ideas. They're never going to remember your whole speech. The key ideas should stand out. One of the things that I thought was actually interesting is actually an app called Trent.com, and what it does is actually transcribe your speech. So it's cool because you could actually, let's say, give a presentation, no matter what it is. You could be talking about yourself, you could be talking about your role in your company, but it actually allows you to see the flow of the words. You can see the transcription. So I thought it might be an interesting tool to share because it's something when you're preparing, again, you really want to know what you sound like. So another thing for speakers of other languages besides English, so if you're using English as a second, a third, a fifth language, opening up the word. Again, going back to, let's say, some of the Eastern European languages, the vowels tend to be kind of short. So we were saying it's really big, but also the vowels in American English are longer. So when I say, if I read one of these sentences and I say you emphasize the vowels, emphasize the vowels, emphasize it. You emphasize the vowels and you're creating a lot of stress on those words. You're also opening it up and making it more clear. You want to be clear. You want to be clearly understood. You're asking for money. You're asking for partnerships. You're asking to have, you want to lead a team. You need to be clear. So when you think about what you need some energy. You need some energy in your voice and your body. You need to be clear. You want to think about your message. Is it concise? You want to think about the confidence you're conveying, and you're going to convey confidence through all these things, through energy, through clarity, through your body language. That's how you're going to get up there and convey that confidence that people need to have in you when you sell. So if you are up there selling and, you pull your body in and you have a low voice or you're not making eye contact, yeah, it's okay. That's fine. I know this. I'm not going to be believing, maybe I'm the investor, maybe this person isn't the right person to sell it. Maybe he's not the face of the company, or maybe he's not the right one for this role. We want to convey all the skill you have matched with the communication skills. So we know you're coming here with skill. We know, you're coming here and you're the best of the best, but how are you going to convey that? And you're going to use all these tips to do it, and many, many more when you come. Another thing is, some of us tend to, when we're trying to look for the words, we tend to over talk a bit. So now, again, going back to our communication styles, some of us are just more talkers. Some of us need to express, with words, with story, and storytelling is great, but we want to make sure you're getting to your point. And how are you doing that? Let's say you have a few minutes, you just did a pitch, and now you're in Q&A. So many of the founders that I work with, they have a great pitch. They memorize the pitch. They know where the cues are. They could deliver it. They could use the body language. Then they get to the question and answers. Then they have to think on their feet. How do you do this? How do you think on your feet and think of the words? So you want to make sure that you are being very careful about the words you choose, because sometimes we might be just thinking out loud. We might be speaking in order to get the words we need. We might be a little anxious too. And if you're someone who tends to be a talker, when you're anxious, you're going to talk more. That's just what happens. And if we know that style about ourselves, we want to start to think about, is this my personal style? Is it my cultural style? I work with a lot of people from Southern Europe as well. And culturally, when you think about certain languages, let's say Italian's a language that when it translates over, there's just a lot more words. There's just a lot more vocabulary there. So when you make the translation, it's, the languages, honestly, English is efficient, and I always say many other languages, Russian, Italian, Spanish, they're beautiful, they're poetic, but the poetry doesn't always translate over, and you're trying to find that right place. So how do you make it more concise? How do you make sure that these listeners, especially the personality types of your usual CEO, of your usual investor, they're going to want the bullet points. They're going to want to know, what it is, what's the point you're making. And they're going to want it quick. They're going to ask you, exactly what is your business model? Let me understand what you're doing. So what I have a lot of the guys do is prepare for this, preparing, whether it's a pitch or, Q&A. You're never going to have everything prepared, but start to understand a style. Think about and close your eyes, and I want you to picture it. Bullet points, write them out. These are the bullet points I want to hit. This is the flow I want to hit when I'm answering questions. These are my key points that I have to drive home. I want you to time yourself. I want you to start answering a question and then time it. How long does a minute take? A lot of times I have, guys up here who, and I'm pointing this way because there's a room where everybody pitches. But there are many, many people who pitch, and then they have 3 minutes to answer questions. So, one of the panelists or one of the judges will ask them a question. So we have judges in front of the room. They're judging the pitch. They're asking questions about the pitch. They want to know more information. They ask one question. They have 3 minutes. Let's say there's 3 or 4 judges. In this 3 minutes, they have to answer all the questions. A lot of them will take the whole 3 minutes on one question because they're not ready to answer that question, because they're not ready to break it down. Maybe because they don't have the vocabulary. So how long does a minute really take? Can you, if you time yourself, if you record yourself, or on screen all the time, if you're on video, how long does that take? How long does a minute take? How long does 2 minutes take? 2 minutes take? Did you answer the question? Did you actually, give the answer? And if you didn't, how are you going to change that? How are you going to start to break it down into bullets so that you are answering the question, that you're able to do it in a condensed time span? New York City happens to be one of these places where the expectation is using very concise language, breaking things down. It's, something people feel like is very transactional here. You sit down, you get into the business right away. There's not a lot of niceties. There is relationship creation. People, of course, do business with people they know. I mean, that's always, I think, across the board, but it's not as central here as it is in other parts of Europe. Here, I think it's a lot more about the transaction. People will do business with you, when you're good at what you do, when they see, something in you that they want to invest in, but they're going to expect you to be able to, give these key points. In an email, this looks like this as well. And sometimes it's a little off-putting. I've had founders here say like, okay, this email, there's no information here. It's like, yes, no, okay, thank you. Now, I'm not saying you should do it this way, but thinking about, again, I've coached founders and the emails are pretty long. They want to explain everything. Here, people are just not used to it. So they get these heavy content emails. And as much as it's hard when you're verbally doing it, equally when you're doing it in email. So you want to think about streamlining what you say. And it also makes it easier now to connect your voice to this. If you have smaller bits of information, you can connect your voice faster. Know your audience. And this is basically just what we were talking about. Who's sitting in front of you? Is it a group of CEOs? Is it a group of tech people? Are they in your industry? Can I use a lot of technical language, or do I need to really break it down? It's a funny way to say it, but people always say, pitch it like you're pitching it to a 4-year-old. How is it that they will understand this and walk away with the message? How is culture going to play a part? What we see sometimes is, when a founder from different parts of the world, Eastern Europe or Southern Europe, presents a deck, it's going to be really heavy up front with the credentials, your PhD, your background, your team, all the things you've done. Right now we're going to be asking you to flip that. We're going to ask you to provide a little story up front. You're going to provide the why up front. And honestly, for a lot of founders, this feels like it's fake. How do you establish credibility? How do you tell people what you've done if you're not explaining, the background of what you've created? But it is a different way of pitching here, and it can be a little uncomfortable in the beginning. So your vocal presence, how you're conveying, keeping it brief. So really understanding, how are you going to connect with this person who has probably a short attention span and just needs to know the facts, and understanding your audience, who's sitting in front of you. The last thing we're going to talk about just briefly is how you're expressing your accomplishments. One thing I hear a lot is that Americans talk about themselves in a way that can sound arrogant or rude to the rest of the world. And, you work with European founders and you hear Americans saying like, oh, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. And, we're the best at this, and it can sound really over the top. It could sound, like I said, kind of rude. There is a way to do this without going crazy. You don't have to, be, oh, I'm the best. And I'm the, this is the most amazing No, it doesn't have to be that big, but and again, I think people have a reputation here for this, but when you do it, be able to express and be able to talk about your accomplishments. I was working with a founder from Northern Europe not that long ago, and she had 2 exits. She was brilliant. She didn't tell me any of that. So she was from Norway, and her way was, not to express these accomplishments, especially when she first met me. In the first few sessions, she wasn't talking about that. So we're crafting this pitch for her most current company, I wasn't understanding that she had already done a lot of this before. So, being able to talk about your accomplishments, being able to, talk about what you've done, and being proud of it is okay. You can put that out here and it's not going to be seen as negative. Again, you don't have to come to the table and make it big because, there is a point where it's overdone. I think sometimes what people do is overcompensate. You come and you think you have to be so big and talk about it so much that you overcompensate, and then it comes off sounding less authentic. It's again, all about your style. How can we help you use your style? So some of the elements here, when you see a typical pitch, and this is probably something you've seen, but we want to talk about a hook. How are you going to grab them? How are you going to grab someone's attention? Imagine the world that imagine if there were, we'll use an American example, imagine there were no more obese people in the United States. And I actually was talking about this with a health tech company. We're here to solve this problem, and this is how we're doing it. We might have a few competitors in the market, but this is why we're different. Some people say this is why we're better. We have developed this kind of technology. This is our business model. You talk about your current traction, and you can do that here. You could actually talk about, what you've done, what your traction is. Talk about your team, but you don't have to get super in depth about it. We've had 20 years experience between us, or we have a brilliant team of engineers, business developers, and marketers. And you can talk about that, but it doesn't have to be as in depth as some of the decks I've seen that come from Europe, where you start off with your full bio of your team. You don't need that as much here. That you'll go into later, probably in your investment meeting. And then also, it is okay to have a very clear ask at the end of your presentation. What are you looking for? Why are you looking for it? How are you going to spend it? Because people want to know. People need to get to know your company, because even if the person sitting in front of you isn't the right person, they might know people. And one thing you're going to find here is that, and you might be surprised at this, the ease of how you're going to connect with the CEOs of large companies. You're going to connect with the top people. Why? It's cultural. New York especially, but the US is made on entrepreneurship. So the hierarchy tends to be very flat. You're not looking at, let's say, the higher ups as much as you might in other cultures. It's not a clear hierarchy. You have access to the top people, and it's not easy. I'm not going to say you're going to walk into the US and have access to this top person when you get here. But if you can strategize it, if you have the right connections, which is what we're doing, we're teaching you to plug in. We're introducing you to mentors and an ecosystem. You're going to sit with the right people so that you can plug into the people you want, sell to the people you want, connect to the people you want. And it's possible. And like I said, I'm not saying it's easy. It takes a lot of work, but it's possible. So it's a pretty normal transaction here. And again, knowing your audience, going back to, that vocal presence, that confidence, because you're going to be dealing with people, from the middle to the top, to the bottom, and you're going to have to know in a networking situation how to connect to everyone, because that person that you might have standing in front of you, you might not think they can help you, because maybe they just started at a new startup and they're not the top person, but they might know the top person. Then you're going to have to connect with everyone. We are also going to help you connect with our entrepreneurs, real founders. You're going to see their pitches. You're going to understand stories. You're going to understand clear business models, and you're going to see samples of this. So when you come here, you're going to not only meet these people, but you're going to see their content. You're going to, embrace all the things that people have been doing. You're going to look at things and say, hey, maybe I can incorporate this in my style, maybe not. But I'm going to see how people did it. And these are the real pitches, the real things that worked, and also the things that didn't. What you're also going to hear about quite a bit is the failures of a lot of our startups. What went wrong? How to do it better. You're going to start to think about it in your own work. It's not all going to be just success after success. I mean, of course, we have to, move up the ladder. We have to learn, from those failures. And then when you're in those meetings, when you're pitching and presenting, you're going to pull apart and strategize, and you're going to communicate why. Why did this happen, and how could I do it better next time? So Bobby is actually going to walk us through some body language and the best practice of, not only how you use your voice, not only how you use the words, but now how you connect your body to that.
Yes, and I also wanted to second some of backup what some of Lisa was talking about, because as she was talking especially about cultural differences, especially between Russia and America. I had a funny story where actually when I was in Russia with my girlfriend and her friends. We were like going out to the country somewhere, and I was just being my regular self, talking, telling stories. Luckily, the group of friends I was with, they were very fluent in English. But one of her friends was sort of in the corner, like kind of like, just like eyes wide, just like looking at me like I was an alien. And I was like, after a while, I sort of caught this guy out of my eye, and I was like, I'm sorry, am I offending you or something? He's like, oh, no. Your face is just so expressive. And something that just sort of like blew his mind. And that just sort of, I wanted to back that up as sort of like how we have these like gaps between the way we culturally talk is very different. I think a lot more Americans are expressive because we have so many different cultures coming in and out. We have influences from so many different cultures. And I think for native Russians, seeing someone who's very expressive can be a little alien. And not to say that you have to be as expressive as me or, as Jim Carrey or something like that, but just sort of keeping that in mind, that which sort of segues into sort of how you're perceived in your body language, how you sort of carry yourself, how you walk into a room, when you shake someone's hand, and sort of the presence that you have is very important, especially when you're pitching. I've noticed, and I didn't realize this until I started working with startups and seeing their pitches, that it's a lot like auditioning for actors and for other artists. You have about 30 seconds to a minute. You get right into the room. You're in front of the people that matter, and the point is to make them see your potential, right? You're selling the potential of your company, but the potential of you. Like, people, I feel like, tend to want to, if they like you, you're kind of in the door, because there's lots of good ideas and great companies and great entrepreneurs out there, but if you walk in there with presence and really connect with the audience on what you're saying, and that happens on a physical level, it really does, and it's not taught enough. We're taught both Western, Eastern, doesn't matter where you're from, Russian, America. We're taught very much to sort of think of the head and the ideas behind what you're saying, but not sort of like the whole body and how you're being perceived. So I just want to give you guys some quick tips to help you and also give you a taste of what we will be going into when we teach you how to use body language. Your body is a tool. I like to think of it as an instrument too, for myself, because I'm an artist, but I like to explain to people that it's a tool. It's a way we express, way we share with ourselves. So what's very important is keeping your instrument tuned up and ready to go. Like, getting in front of a group of, let's say 50 angel investors and pitching is on the same par with getting onto a New York City stage and delivering a monologue to an audience. Your body needs to be tuned up, and it needs to be released of tension. Because when you have tension, when you're holding on to tension, maybe it's an early morning and you just have this crick in your neck and you got to go in and pitch and you're like, whatever, I'll do it. This little knot in your neck is actually going to suck impulse. It's going to suck vibrations of speaking right up, and it's going to get caught in that knot. This is actually physically proven. So what's really good is, just sort of like, before you do any big pitches, do nice shoulder rolls, roll your neck around, get really nice and relaxed, drop down and make sure that you have less tension, because tension can be almost like if you take a garden hose and you cinch one part of the garden hose, water's not going to flow out. It's going to get stuck right there. So that's very important to be able to seem, and it helps you seem relaxed when you're in those pitches, when you're in those very important meetings. If you're giving off nervous energy, if you're tense, if you have a lot of tension, that makes the other person nervous. We pick up on verbal cues and body cues from other people. So if you're coming in very tight and you go to shake someone's hand and you're nervous, that all translates to them. Now they're feeling kind of nervous. They're like, this person looks and is appearing to be tense. So it's just as simple as going through, like I said, some neck rolls, maybe rolling down your spine, rolling back up your spine, so that you just feel like you don't have any tension carrying on top of what you already have to do and present. Which leads me into my next point, which is about breathing. So important is breath. And I know that sounds like, but what I was saying in those moments of absolute tension and fear and getting up in front of an audience of people, your breath can get very short. And you could start just breathing into your chest like I am right now, and then you hear the quality of my voice now is much more strained, and I'm taking quick little gasps of air instead of you breathe out and you're now in a full air, and that is so important and so detrimental to a pitch is taking time to breathe. I can give you little actors too. If you take sections in like your transcription of what Lisa was talking about when you transcribe your pitches, just put little check marks where you know you're going to breathe, because it's going to help you get to the end of a thought much easier. I see a lot of people breaking up their pitches in the middle of sentences because they're just not getting enough breath. That's very important. So just dropping into your breath, taking a second before you start your pitch. I know it seems like the second you get up there, like it seems like any 1 second break you take in your pitch, probably to you seems like a million seconds. Like, why am I pausing so much? Why am I pausing so much? Let's just breathe and then continue to talk. Like, it's such a great piece of advice that I can give. And also very, very small piece of advice. I don't know if it's gonna be kind of hard to do on camera, but I see a lot of wanderers when they pitch. People are like, so my company, I like to talk about it just conveys like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm saying when you're wandering around. It's really great. This comes back to physicality. Plant your feet. You think down into your feet. You feel your feet beneath you and keep you in place, and then if you want to move to another part of the audience and talk over this way, and you want to move to this part of the audience, you move deliberately. You don't wander around, because I find that's a big thing that really helps people. And I think you could really see it. I'm really proud they showed that video, because you could see in both of those videos, like you saw in the first video from that pitch, like I was saying, he was very nervous. He was stuttering, had to look at his page, and he was wandering. And then the biggest difference between the first pitch and then the last time he pitched was that presence I was talking about. I want to finish on presence and connection with your audience. You are very present in the moment when you're really talking to someone. If you're just talking at somebody, this is my product, this is what I want, this is what they're not gonna listen to you. They're gonna shut off because you're not making a connection with them. If you're talking to one person, this is much easier, because you just literally keep with them, because you know your pitch. You don't have to worry about your pitch. Like, if you've done your work, you don't need to keep thinking about your pitch and throw it at this person. Watch how it's landing on them. Make a connection with eye contact is very, very important. So just like, and if you're in a room full of people, take a lesson from an actor. You try to connect with like many different people in the audience, try to really check in and see what's going on with them. Because not only does that help like you feel what's working, what's not working, it makes them feel engaged to you. And that final video we saw, he was engaging and talking and making a connection with everyone in that audience, which is a physical thing that you can do, because it's in your body language. You can tell when someone is dropped in and engaged. And that is very important. So there you are. You have some body language tips. I'm going to throw it back to Lisa now.
All right. So I'm not sure if, Bobby, is it possible for you to show the office at all, or maybe I'll just do it from here?
Yes, I can.
This is very quick. So just a little brief peek into the office, so you can see what it might look like if you arrive here.
All right, let's go. I'm gonna do it via my phone.
Okay, and then right after that, we're gonna bring in some founders just to give them some feedback. Founders, or actually students, I'm sorry. So we're gonna bring in some students to give them a little bit of feedback. But Bobby's gonna show you.
Can you see me now?
I can see you.
Guys, welcome to start. Hold on a second. I can't tell. Can you see from?
Yeah.
Yes. So everyone, welcome to Started. This is the co-working space right here. So this is says, hey, hello everybody. Hey, there's our wonderful founders and everybody. Hey, everybody, how's it going? Yes, this is the beautiful space that we have here, and this is where all the co-working happens. And we have these booths over here, these soundproof booths. Basically, you can work inside of and not worry about any noise coming in or coming out. We have multiple conference room spaces, which we were just speaking to you with. And what's really great is we have our event space right in here, this beautiful room. There's a tiny little kitchen. It's just a beautiful, beautiful space. We have professional sound equipment, projectors. Yeah, so this just gives you a little bit of taste. And like literally, as you look out the window, I mean, you're in Manhattan, right on 23rd Street in Midtown, which is, anybody will tell you, is pretty much the heart of New York City. You're pretty much right smack dab in the middle of it. Am I right? Is it good?
I think you froze.
Oh no. Back to my room.
All right, Bobby's gonna go back to the room because he had a slight technical difficulty at the end. All right, so now what you're gonna do is we're gonna have a couple of students that are actually in the school, and we're gonna give them some feedback so you can see the style of feedback and how it's done. So Bobby.
Yes.
All right, are you ready? We're gonna bring in some students now, okay?
I'm more than ready.
Okay, you have echo. I think you need to shut one of the, okay. All right, so do we have any students? Sergey, I think he'll let them in. Let me let him know that we're ready.
Yeah, the first one is Michael Kotz.
Okay, Michael.
Hello.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Okay, good. Can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, sure. I'm from Yekaterinburg, Russia. I'm the co-founder and chief business development officer in Flower and Gift Delivery Service here. And also I'm responsible for all marketing and the IT of this project. We now have more than 50 employees and we have about 50,000 orders per year. And I started doing e-commerce projects while I was back in university. So for the past 13 years, I started more than 10 projects and only 2 of them become fully operational and successful. And during this COVID-19 situation last year and this year, we had big difficulties in our main business. So our sales were down for about 20, but we were able to pivot quickly because of our IT infrastructure that we've built for the last several years. So we started to deliver more of our orders, and it even gave the business 40% growth. And actually this situation was like a wake-up call for me, showing that this is what I like to do, to find solutions to different problems, to create products and services that can help people. And I think now it's the best time for it. My goal now is to continue going down this entrepreneurial path, doing my own projects or thinking about new startup ideas with high potential for disruption. And I hope that my experience can be valuable because I'm playing 2 parts in my business as a co-founder and CBDO. And also I have failed a lot of projects, so I want to reflect on my experience and share it with others. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. We're going to thinking about all the things we talked about, thinking about the presence, thinking about the voice, thinking about the body language, thinking about the message. We're going to give you some feedback, and this way everybody kind of has a frame. So first of all, I think it was a really good initial pitch. I think that you have presence, you have confidence, and what I really loved is the message actually reflected both your success, and you also talked about, what went wrong and how you had to rebuild from that. So I think that's really important for us to know because, this is happening to everybody, right? This is very relevant for all of us right now. We're going through very, very difficult time, but for the first time in the world, we're all going through it. I'm sitting here in New York and you're sitting there and we're all talking about COVID and what happened to us in these past years. So this is something that can bond us. One thing I would say is, being careful as you are, and I don't know, we all have habits of this, but as you were thinking, you were breaking away from the camera. So you'll do like, okay, so, being careful to, keep direct contact with the camera, especially on Zoom, because, sometimes the longer you're thinking, the more, okay, so my next thing, and if I break too long, I could lose my audience a little bit. The next thing I would say is to just be careful of, your pacing. So, sometimes you're going really fast and then sometimes you went into a slower pace, try to even out the pace a little. It's great to change it up. I think that's good, but I could see, when you were, super excited and then, you were going through moments where you, needed a little more time. So use a pause in those moments, give yourself a moment, pause, and then move into the next idea. And I think that would help, just to move you through to the next ideas. All right, Bobby, do you have, I don't want to take up too much time. Bobby?
Yeah, the only thing I would second what Lisa's saying as well. I find that when you were pitching, it could the thought was a bit broken up sometimes, and that comes with just sort of the, as we're speaking, we're thinking. But when you're pitching, it almost seems like we get to the very end of the thought, and then there's the pause. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I found that you were breaking up just the middle of thoughts, and then when that happens, I tend to lose that train of thought. And I think that's just as simple as practice makes perfect. You just know, I say this, that, the other thing, and then be able to connect those thoughts. And yeah, I think overall that was a very good pitch. Definitely, she was right. You had great presence. You were with us on the camera, except when you were, like she said, when you were thinking up in a way. So that was very well done.
Okay, thanks for great advice.
Thank
No
you.
problem.
Thank you for being the brave person to pitch first. I really appreciate that.
Someone's
and I'm looking forward to meeting you in New York soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so again, do we have another person?
Yeah, another person is Piotr Nikolaev. Please welcome.
Yeah, hello everyone.
Hi. Hi, Peter. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Peter Nikolaev, a developer who is trying to turn into a product. I would like to tell you about why I'm here, actually. During my work in IT as a full stack developer and a CTO, I always preferred to work in startups since I found more space for innovation there and I felt better sense of responsibility. However, about a year ago, I realized that I do really love working with the problems instead of pure tasks. That's why I decided to change my low-level technical vision. And now I'm working with Home Alliance as a product owner. We are trying to capture the US market of appliance repair and building a smart digital marketplace connecting the technicians on one side and the clients on the other side. Regarding the C-level school, my main goal is to obtain the immeasurable experience of building a high-tech product on a global market. And apart from my current job, it is really very useful experience for my own project that I have an intention to build, but it should be another speech about them. Thank you for the attention.
All right, thank you very much. Bobby, do you want to go first?
I think one thing I wanted to say, because you both did it and didn't do it, was what I just did it right there. Is when you go, it's these fillers that we put in. Some people say like, some people say they sort of, as we're talking, they are meant to fill in as we think, as we're speaking. I saw that you did a few of them, but then you actually did the good habit of just pausing and breathing. Whenever there's a break in your thought and you have to think about the next word, take a second to think of it instead of going, and it's very, very difficult. Everyone, you're going to have to do a lot of listening to yourself, because literally in this, as I'm giving this coaching right now, I'm saying ahs and ums, so they're very hard to catch. I just did one right there. And I think what you do is really great, where like everyone take note of that, where you breathe. If you take a second to breathe, instead of saying, it not only makes us like more engaged, because we're kind of like, what is he going to say next? You might think like a pausing in the middle of your sentence. You just said, don't break up your thought. It's different when you're chopping up the idea, the thought behind your sentence, and the idea as a whole other thing, to take a second and breathe, which grounds you and gives you a minute to think about the next thing. And you don't put the fillers in there, like the likes, the uhs, the wells, the vot, you know what I mean? So that was really good. So that's what I wanted to touch on that for you, and show you both what you did right and what you did wrong there, as I'll illustrate that for everybody.
So yes, and so what I really loved, Peter, is that you actually can convey a lot of emotion through your face. Like your facial expression is warm, yeah, and you smile, and right away I connect with you. You know, so that's actually really important, because that's not easy to do for everybody. Some people have it naturally, some people don't. Also, the way you used your voice, you had a lot of variation in there. You know, you weren't monotone, you weren't too quiet. You use your voice in a way that I feel like is very natural to you, but it was effective. I would say, you know, going back to what Bobby said, you know, there is a level when you're practicing this, and I would suggest this for everyone, you know, when you're practicing these types of things, you're talking about yourself, you're talking about your accomplishments, which you did very well. You also used some story to tell us a little bit more about you, which helps me remember you. You know, anyone who's doing this, if you could add in some personal examples and stories, I think that was great. I would say for you, you know, again, as you're practicing this, you know, you're going to start to think about that smooth transition from word to word. And this also comes with speaking English every day. So this is for people who are speaking English as a second or third language. What I do want to say is, you know, I work with people with accents every single day, and the accent is not an issue at all. So there is, as long as you're clear, remember we go back to clarity, as long as you're clear, as long as people get the message, what you're using the accent for is to be unique. You know, you want to stand out in this sea of founders, so you're going to use that to be unique. You want to stand out in every way possible, in every positive way possible. And in New York, this is a very international city, you know, so we have people coming here from everywhere. So don't overthink that piece if that ever comes to mind. But for you, you know, just making those smooth transitions from word to word, you know, and I think that, again, just takes a little practice. You know, when you're speaking, the words actually kind of link together very smoothly. You know, so it almost feels, someone said to me, it almost feels like singing. You know, when you're speaking the words word to word, you want to have that smooth transition, and even try to practice this. So give me one sentence that you just, you know, something about what you just said, same sentence, just one sentence, like who you are. As far as your, you know, I like to solve problems. I realize I like to solve problems. Give me that one line. Or just tell me about that again. It doesn't have to be the same sentence. Can we unmute Peter for a second? Peter can't unmute. Okay, I don't have control of that. So I'm going to say, that's what I would say to practice. And I want all of you to record this. I don't have the unmute button here, I don't think. Do I? Maybe I do. Okay, yeah, I do.
I think on Sergey's end, I think he does that.
Peter, can you just give me one line from what you said? Any line, or just give me a sentence, any sentence. It doesn't have to be what you said. So what do you like to do? You said you're, you know, you realize you like to solve problems instead of the technique.
Yeah, I love solving problems instead of working with pure and obvious tasks.
All right, so
it was pretty bad, I suppose. It wasn't impressive.
No, it doesn't. But just whatever, you know, when you're practicing anything, I want you to practice it on content that's super easy. You know, when you're trying to put voice onto something, it shouldn't be something complex. It should be, you know, the most basic things. What I tell people is, you know, go to a restaurant and order some food and then practice these voice tips, because it has to be easy in the beginning. If you're trying to remember content and you're trying to remember voice, that's going to be difficult. But when you're speaking, just, again, make it nice and smooth. So I like to remember problems, you know, instead of low-level tasks. I like to remember problems and really emphasize some key words in there. I like to remember problems instead of, you said low-level tasks or tech tasks or something like that, right? I like to remember problems and put a little pitch on it instead of tasks. And I want you to just emphasize two key words for me and make it nice and smooth. Just try it one more time.
I love solving problems instead of dealing with pure tasks.
Okay. All right. So we're going to practice this, but thank you for that. That was good. That was good. And it's hard. And I just put you on the spot, so I do apologize. I know you're like, okay, who's Lisa? And I'm going to, so.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Can I add,
do you have another person for me, another victim?
Wait, can I add one more?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bobby.
I just wanted to add one more thing to the what Lisa was saying about having something like having humor inside of the pitch there. Like there was a bit at the end where you were like, that's a speech for a whole another time, which I thought was very clever. I think ultimately people want to work with you or don't want to work with you. Like I know that sounds kind of crazy, and it especially happens in the acting world and in the arts world, is that there's so many great actors and performers out there. They want to work with you, so they want to connect in some way with you, and having some funness, having some humor, having something that expresses who you are and what you like is so much more interesting to people than great ideas. Like angel investors hear great ideas every day of their life, and it's about like, do they believe in you? Because ultimately they're putting their faith in you to make it happen, and they want to work with you. So having those like fun bits, and now that doesn't mean throwing a cheesy joke. That just means like having something where it's like, so if it excites you and enlightens you and you want to add in a little humor or like, people really appreciate that, and gets us to know you as opposed to just your product or what you're trying to sell. People really do care about that. So that was nice.
Yes. And this might go for a lot of people as we're speaking, that these tips might go across, for many people.
Mm-hmm.
Sergey, do you have anyone else?
Yes, Alexei Shagraev is next.
Okay.
Yeah, good day.
Hello.
May I present the screen, please?
Oh, yes. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Oh, you know what? I'm not sure if you could present screen right now. I don't think so. I don't think you're on share mode. You might have to just express this with us, okay?
Okay, if you want. Okay, so I just wanted to share some, basic information on slides, not to spend the time. So, okay, let me start with saying that I really enjoyed this meeting. So thank you very much. And all of these words are really important for us. So speaking about me, I have some experience in, this. I'm that type of company person you've talked about. So I have experience in big tech companies. Now I'm working in Google, and before that I was working in Yandex, and I was leading teams of different sizes, from 10 persons to nearly 100, in different roles. And I wanted to share with you some thoughts on for which types of challenges would you probably like to have me in your team, and what are the corresponding roles. And the first role is just simply individual contributor. So I'm a programmer, and I have experience here, and I have lots of examples of my work and some tech talks, some YouTube videos, and so on. The second role is just management role. As I said, I have lots of experience with different teams, with distributed teams and so on. And the third role is I'm now an investor and an advisor in one startup, and some other negotiations are now ongoing. So you may think about me from these three roles. And in exchange, I'm looking for two simple things. The first one is just the next level of impact. I'm really looking for opportunities to make the world better, for different people. And if you can help me with this, I'm here. And the second part is I'm really looking for opportunities to learn something different. You are right that I have my experience mostly in Russia and now in Switzerland and a bit from America, but yes, I can be better in this. So that's me. Thank you very much.
Nice.
All right, thank you. Bobby, you want to take it, or you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay, so it's Alex, right?
Yeah, you can call me Alex.
But tell me your name.
It's Alexei, but
Alexei. Okay, Alexei.
Yeah.
So your name is written in Russian, and I have actually tried to learn Russian, and I'm still on the
sorry.
so you have to forgive me on this one. I'm still trying to figure out the letters, but so I'm at the reading point. But all right, so I would say a couple of things that we go back to what we were doing. First of all, again, I love your message. I think that the way you're portraying yourself, that you portrayed your experience, that you have this goal of changing the world. That's super impactful. and we're going to have to get some of your voice behind that. You also, have also demonstrated that you have already some intercultural flexibility. You've worked in Switzerland, you're working in Switzerland, you've worked in Russia, you worked a little bit in the States. So you've had to do some of this, and you get it. You understand, like working on global teams, how things could shift. What I would say is being careful of your clarity. Again, you're one of those people who I was talking about, you kind of keep your mouth closed when you're speaking. You don't open your mouth very much. So when you're not opening your mouth, it gets a little harder to hear you. What it also does is muffle out the sound. So what I heard you do is you're making these powerful statements, but your voice is dropping at the end. So Bobby talked a little bit about this. You have to open your mouth and shape the sounds, but you have to drive your voice to the end. So it sounded like, I want to change the world. I'm working on corporate. And so at the end, you'd have this back, fall off, back, fall off. So what we want is a strong voice to go through, because you just had a really powerful message. You told us where you've worked. You told us what you want to do. You told us you want to change the world. So we want to put some of you behind that. And again, it doesn't have to be over the top. It doesn't have to be inauthentic, but we want it to be there. So we're going to, thinking about opening your mouth, thinking about shaping the sounds, thinking about how you're using that energy behind those words, and does it match what you just told me? Bobby.
Yeah, I wanted to agree with that. When there's a tendency to that everybody has actors, doesn't matter. That happens a lot in actors and has to get trained out of them. And I think natural speakers don't get taught this enough. Is that swallowing of the end of a sentence or letting it drop, exactly like Lisa was talking about. It might not be. You're either doing one or the other. But just to give you both, like you could talk like, today we went to the store. And you're not getting the end of a sentence, or actually that was kind of a swallow too. Like when people are, and it happens a lot with like being sort of nervous and having jitters, but a great way to think of it is like throwing a ball. You want to keep the energy. It's like, we went to the store and bought some milk, and we try to get it like it's throwing like an arc, and it lands on the other person. And you want to think of each sentence and each thought as like a ball being thrown to the person that you're speaking to or to your audience. I think that's a very helpful tip. But yeah, she was right about you have good personality. I get a sense of you really there. So it's really important that you have open communication, because we want to know more about you, and we want to be felt more included in when we're talking, because if it's very closed off and very personal, it's not inviting other people in. Yeah.
And what I want everybody to notice is what we were going back to before. Everybody that presented so far has different styles. One of you used a little bit more story. One of you, introduced the facts. You gave us your background. Everybody has a little different way. You gave us sort of a big vision, and I think everybody has a little bit of a different way, but it was effective. What I love is that everybody is coming to this and presenting, some really clear ideas. So it's, you're giving us easy things to work with, and we have a lot to teach you, but I think that you have it. Like you said, you have all this skill, and now we're here to teach you these things to up level. So I am looking forward to working with you. I can't wait to actually get to talk to you a little more one-to-one.
Actually, to that point, I think everyone has, like you just said, it inspired me to say something. It's like everyone has these skills inside of them. Yeah. It's just a matter of unlocking them. I'll have conversations with people a lot where they're like, it's like, my accent is going to be a problem. My language is going to be a problem. So I'm like, there's not problems. We all have these things, these tools or access to us. It's just a matter of opening up that toolbox and picking up the wrench and learning how to use it for the first time. It might be scary at first, but it just takes some work. It's a practice, and of course some coaching, because it's everything in life. You need sort of someone with an extra set of ears to be like, well, you're dropping at the end of the sentence. You're not getting the energy all the way through. Your tempo staccato. And it's tough to hear those kind of things, but I wouldn't ever think that this stuff is not within your reach with some work and some coaching, because it all totally is.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Alexei, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. I think, Sergey, we have our last person, right? Our last student?
That's it.
That's it. Okay.
That's it.
All right, everyone. 1 minute. Let me just share screen one more time. Share screen. Bear with me for 1 moment. All right, so Bobby. Okay, so when you go home, I gotta go back. How do I go back? There we go. So my mouse is jumping around, just so you know. I am not the tech person here, so you can rest assured I will not be helping you with that part because I can't even work a mouse.
We got great people for that. We got great people for that.
We have the best people.
Lisa.
It's just not me. So, all right. What I challenge you all to do is do the same thing that you just saw. Write down a few sentences about your company, or who you are, what your goals are. Practice this. Record yourself, film yourselves. What you've learned here today, I want you to all try to implement this and see, where could I learn? Where could I get coached? And how can this benefit me? So the last thing is just sign up on our website. I really would love to see you here and join our program on March 1st. And ask for invites, join our panel. We want you to be part of this community. We invite you to be part of this community. We are confident that we could help you get to where you want to be. And we've done this. We've proven this model through our accelerator. And now we're up-leveling it to a different group of people. But, we understand how to teach these skills. So we hope to see you here. Thank you so much. I know we went a little over time, so I do apologize for that. But thank you for, attending this webinar. We really hope we see you soon. Bobby, thank you so much for the teamwork. And
thank you.
We hope to see everyone very, very soon. All right. From the School of C in New York City. Have a nice evening, everyone, or day, or wherever you might be in the world. All right. Bye, everyone.
And congratulations, everyone.